Built over 1,000 years ago, the three Great Living Chola Temples of Thanjavur, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, and the Airavatesvara Temple at Darasuram are among the greatest achievements of Indian temple architecture in South India. Their construction dates to the time of the Chola dynasty, rulers of South India between the 10th and the 13th centuries AD, after taking over from the Pallavas of Kanchipuram and other local dynasties. The origins of the Chola kings are lost in mystery and legends, as they are already mentioned in Indian epics and historical documents from as early as the 3rd century BC. The dynasty reached its greatest prosperity under Raja Raja Chola, who reigned from 985 to 1014 AD, extending the empire as far as the Tungabhadra River in the north and Sri Lanka in the south. It was this king who commissioned the construction of the first and greatest of the living Chola temples in his capital city of Thanjavur. A mountain of stone, the Great Temple at Thanjavur rivals many Egyptian pyramids in size and grandeur. Its pyramidal tower, built entirely out of granite, rises to a height of 66 meters or 216 feet and is surmounted by an immense 80-ton monolithic capstone. The entire temple contains an estimated 130,000 tons of granite, transported from quarries located over 100 kilometers or 65 miles away. Legend has it that because of its precise architectural design and careful orientation, this temple casts no shadow at noon in any season of the year. The temple was built as a giant mandala, a huge cosmic diagram, making it a veritable book of stone encoding the principles of sacred geometry and the human canon. 70 kilometers to the north, Raja Raja's son, Rajendra Chola, founded a new capital at Gangaikonda Cholapuram. While almost nothing else remains of this great city, the Brihadeeswarar Temple, built in 1035 AD, still stands. Only slightly smaller than the Great Temple at Thanjavur, this masterpiece of Chola architecture still rises 55 meters high, with its impressive tower visible from miles away, its contours slightly curved as to give the impression of an even greater height. Closing the triangle, the Airavatesvara Temple at Darasuram was built by Raja Raja II between 1150 and 1173 AD. It is the smallest of the great Chola temples, yet also the most ornate and profusely decorated. Shaped like a giant chariot, its pyramidal tower rises to a height of 24 meters or 78 feet and is also entirely built of granite. The three Great Living Chola Temples together form a triangle containing some of the greatest sacred and religious architecture in South India. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, they are a testament to the scientific and engineering skill of medieval Tamil architects and stone carvers. The heirs to a tradition of megalithic architecture a monumental stone building that goes back thousands of years into the remote prehistory of the Indian subcontinent. At the beginning of Raja Raja's reign in 985 AD, the Cholas were just one of many local dynasties vying for control of South India against the powerful Pallava, Pandya, and Chalukya empires. Yet, after a series of successful military campaigns, the Cholas managed to extend their rule over much of South India, and under Raja Raja's son, Rajendra I, as far as the Ganges River in northern India. Beyond their land domains, the Cholas became a major maritime power in 11th century South Asia, directly conquering or ruling over large parts of Malaysia and Indonesia, and helping the rise of the Khmer Empire, centered around Angkor, in what is today's Cambodia. To commemorate his victories, Raja Raja ordered the construction of an enormous temple in his capital city of Thanjavur. The temple, originally called Raja-Rajeshvaram, was dedicated to the deified Raja Raja himself as a manifestation of the god Shiva in 1010 AD. It was the largest temple in South India and one of the largest in all of India at the time. Its construction took less than 7 years, between 1003 and 1010 AD. To build this immense temple, as many as 130,000 tons of granite were quarried and transported over distances greater than 100 kilometers to Thanjavur. The result was a masterpiece unrivaled in the history of medieval Indian architecture. The Great Temple complex forms a huge rectangle measuring 240 meters east to west by 120 meters north to south. Its two enclosures are pierced by monumental gateways called gopuras, decorated with colossal guardian sculptures. Past the monumental entrance towers, the temple courtyard contains 5 main sections. These include a Nandi pavilion, a colonnade festival hall, the main entrance pavilion or mandapa, a pillared hall connecting the entrance mandapa with the sanctum, and the sanctum proper with its huge pyramidal tower. The whole complex was built according to the principles of sacred geometry, incorporating the golden ratio in its structural design. Several smaller shrines also surround the main temple, which is dedicated to the god Shiva. The Nandi pavilion, which is axially aligned to the main temple sanctuary, contains a huge 25-ton polished black granite monolithic bull, one of the largest in all of India, which was also moved from quarries located over 100 kilometers away to Thanjavur. The temple is entered from the east, the doorway, like that of the entrance towers, flanked by giant Dvarapala or guardian sculptures. The massive outer walls are marked by pilasters and niches containing sculptures, most of which oddly remain unfinished. The main temple tower, reaching over 60 meters high, is built in 13 successive tiers, tapering towards the massive 80-ton monolithic capstone on top. The tower itself is decorated with hundreds of miniature shrines, rhythmically placed alongside smaller columns and pilasters. This huge pyramidal tower, symbolizing Mount Meru, Shiva's sacred abode in the Himalayas, was called Dakshina Meru, or the Meru of the South, by Raja Raja Chola, as a testament to the temple's significance as the cosmological center of his new empire. The temple interior is no less magnificent. Past the entrance mandapa, a spectacular yet somehow austere pillared hall leads to the main sanctum, containing a huge image of the god Shiva in the shape of a monolithic Shivalingam, measuring over 8.7 meters or 29 feet high and weighing over 20 tons. Only the priests are allowed inside the sanctum, and photography of the huge monolithic lingam and the main deity of the temple is strictly forbidden. The tower itself is hollow and is said to resonate as a giant granite bell when particular chants are intoned inside the sanctum. Yet unfortunately, this other extraordinary feature of the Thanjavur temple is also inaccessible to visitors. From the sanctum entrance, two side doors lead back to the outside, also flanked by colossal guardian sculptures. In comparison with the rather dark and austere interior, the exterior of the tower and the temple's pavilion contain a profusion of carvings, among which are many masterpieces of medieval Indian art. These include a spectacular representation of the god Shiva emerging from a flaming black granite linga, a dancing Shiva represented as Nataraja, the lord of dances, and the androgynous Ardhanarishvara with half the body and face of Shiva and half of Parvati. A long inscription runs along the base of the temple, commemorating its construction by Raja Raja Chola and various gifts made to the temple and its main deities. Numerous frescoes once decorated the temple, particularly the circumambulatory passage inside the tower and around the main sanctum, but these are presently inaccessible. The visible frescoes that ornate the temple's outer walls are later additions and mostly date to the 16th and 17th centuries. More astonishing still, the temple tower is surmounted by a huge monolithic capstone called a shikara. Once covered in gold, the enormous capstone is a single block of granite, weighing as many as 80 tons. We may never know by what means the huge capstone was lifted to the top of the 66 meters or 220 feet tall temple tower. The most widely accepted hypothesis is that a colossal ramp, possibly several kilometers long, was built to raise the 80-ton granite capstone in place. By some estimates, the ramp may have measured over 6 kilometers or about 4 miles long, containing a volume of packed earth far superior to that of the temple itself. Hundreds of elephants and thousands of men were likely employed to pull the enormous stone up the ramp with the use of sleds and wooden rollers. Other more fantastic hypotheses include levitation or the use of immense machines for lifting the huge capstone to the summit of the temple tower. Thanjavur is truly a mystical place, and it is hard to resist being captured by the extraordinary beauty and magnificence of this temple. Part of it may be due to the temple being constructed as a giant mandala, according to the principles of sacred geometry. The temple's fundamental dimensions embed the golden ratio, and its overall layout may be shown to be based on a series of concentric circles and squares, forming a kind of cosmic diagram known as a Vastu Mandala in Indian temple architecture. Perhaps one of the greatest and most famous mysteries of this temple is the fact that it seemingly casts no shadow at noon on any day of the year. In fact, the temple tower is so constructed that at noon on any given day, its shadow never falls beyond the base of the walls. This is a testament to the extraordinary mathematical and engineering skill of the ancient builders, and the result of the temple's specific orientation and geographical location. The temple's lack of shadow may have been intended to symbolically represent transcendence from the material world, and may also have been an astronomical tool used to mark the equinoxes. 70 kilometers away, the Gangaikonda Cholapuram Temple also appears to incorporate advanced mathematical and geometric knowledge far ahead of its age. Only slightly shorter than the Thanjavur Temple, at 55 meters high, this temple's tower is gracefully curved to describe a parabolic shape, thus greatly accentuating the perceived height of the tower. Like the Great Temple of Thanjavur, it is also approached through multiple gateways and entrance towers, leading to the main sanctuary. This measures over 103 meters long and is aligned on an east-west axis. The temple tower rises as a vertical square structure in 9 levels of diminishing size. The whole temple is richly decorated with statues and structural carvings and bas-reliefs, many of which rank among the greatest masterpieces of medieval Hindu art. One relief in particular includes a most unusual portrait of the Hindu ruler Rajendra I, with Shiva and Parvati crowning him with a garland of flowers. Past a couple of colossal guardian sculptures, the temple interior resembles that of the Thanjavur Great Temple, although on a slightly smaller scale. A colossal monolithic Shivalinga sits at the end of the hallway inside the main sanctuary. Around the temple are monolithic representations of the planetary deities and a colossal statue of the Nandi bull, axially oriented towards the main sanctuary, 200 meters away. Almost nothing else remains of the vast imperial capital that the Cholas built at this site, and that remained a seat of imperial power for the following 2 centuries, until it was conquered and razed to the ground by the Muslim armies of the Delhi Sultanate. Nor is it known why only this temple was spared of the dozens that certainly graced the ancient capital. Less than 40 kilometers away, the Airavatesvara Temple at Darasuram was the last of the Great Living Chola Temples to be constructed in the 12th century AD. It is significantly smaller than the Great Temple at Thanjavur and the Gangaikonda Cholapuram Temple, but possesses outstanding architectural and ornamental features that make it one of the most elegant and brilliant examples of medieval Indian architecture. Continuing the solar symbolism of the other Chola temples, this temple is shaped like a giant chariot, furnished with wheels and figures of horses and elephants. The main temple sits on a high plinth, 63 meters long by 23 meters wide. It is entered through a beautiful pillared mandapa, supported by lion pillars in the typical Chola style. This leads through 2 more colonnade halls to the main sanctuary, upon which rises a pyramidal stone tower. At only 24 meters high, this tower is significantly smaller than that of the Thanjavur and Gangaikonda Cholapuram temples, having only less than half the height. It is nevertheless of very elegant proportions, rising in 5 tiers towards the huge monolithic capstone on top. The exterior of the temple is profusely decorated with sculptures, many carved from black granite and basalt. These include an extraordinary representation of Shiva, emerging from a black granite Shivalingam near the base of the tower. Traces of paintings may still be seen on the walls surrounding the main sanctuary. On the opposite side of the tower, a small basin once collected the water and milk that were constantly poured on the Shivalingam inside the sanctuary. Stone conduits would then carry the liquid to fertilize the fields and the surrounding countryside. Spacious colonnades surround the main temple on all 4 sides, affording beautiful perspectives of the sanctuary. only ruins remain of the vast temple compound, which include remnants of a monumental gopura or stone gateway and the ruined Nandi pavilion. Most notable are a set of singing steps located in front of the temple's main entrance gateway, which produce a musical sound when struck. These again show the high level of scientific and technical knowledge achieved by the ancient Chola builders and stonemasons in working with the hard local granite. Taken together, the three Great Living Chola Temples represent one of the most outstanding examples of medieval Hindu architecture in South India. Their construction required deep engineering and mathematical knowledge, and was inspired by the principles of sacred geometry and astronomical alignments. With their tall pyramidal towers, these temples also served as great astronomical instruments, designed to track the movements of the sun around the solstices and the equinoxes, when the temple casts no shadow on the ground at noon. There is no explanation yet for how the enormous monolithic capstones, weighing up to 80 tons, could be lifted to heights greater than 60 meters, the same of a 20-story building, using just simple ramps and pulleys. The Cholas, with their broad-spanning empire covering much of Southeast Asia, may have been one of the driving forces behind the rise of the Khmer Empire in today's Cambodia. At Angkor, the mathematical and astronomical knowledge already evident in the design and construction of the great Chola temples found its greatest expression in the creation of vast cosmograms laid on the ground according to sophisticated cosmological principles, whose origin we can now confidently trace back to the faraway plains of South India and the great stone mountain of Thanjavur, the temple without shadow.